Time to get down to some historical yard work. The clocks are ticking and we need to weed out heresy to unearth the surreal tale of Japan's secret woman warrior / ninja spy before it vanishes forever. Let's rake and shake off the faded petals that have buried the identity of this noblewoman with every sayonara of the waning Sakura season. A poet par excellence or a deadly spy? An aggrieved widow or a beacon of hope? This is a rare jewel that Japanese history envelops in velvety darkness. Hello and welcome back to a new episode of HerStory, Unforgettable Women. In today's video, we'll drift over to the land of dragons and chrysanthemums and lift the veil from Japan's ancient icon of women empowerment, Mochizuki Chiyome. Mochizuki Chiyome was part of the Japanese nobility during the war-riddled landscape of 16th century Japan. Perhaps as a poet, her quill wielded as much power as her sword. Her claim to fame is the astounding feat of assembling her own group of ninja agents. And here's a bolt from the blue: they were all women. Mochizuki Chiyome tied the auspicious nuptial knot with Mochizuki Moritoki, a samurai lord who ruled the seat of power at Shimano-saku district. The governance of feudal-era Japan was a botched job from sunup to sundown. The land of the rising sun did not wake up to particularly chirpy mornings during the 16th century. After all, the 150-year-old conflict of the Sengoku period was not something you could spill the tea on after a traditional tea ceremony. The ruling emperor's reign was in ruins. He had his hands full with the band of marauding miscreants he ruled over, rife with bloodshed as land-grabbing feudal lords had a go at each other's throats. The chaotic mess that was Japan was hardly worthy of the golden era of history textbook stereotype that history books commonly wax poetical over. Leaving all the squabbling behind, let's slice the surface with a samurai sword and slink a little deeper into the silent, shadowy realm of the samurai lords, where a thick, murky fog of scheming and sinister secrets cloaked the landscape. It was in this hotbed of conspiracy and intrigued that Mochizuki Chiyome took her first gulp of oxygen. A good thing too that she didn't choke on her breath, as the acrid air was alive with eerie assassins and elusive ninjas creeping silently under the command of their samurai overlords. Some were bound by honor to their masters while most slaved away to quench their thirst for money. Did Chiyome have the blood of some infamous ninja coursing through her veins? It is conjectured that she was from the lineage of the 15th century ninja of the Koga-ryu Mochizuki Izumo no Kami. The Lady Ninja's illustrious ancestor ran a ninja school using a pharmacy as a front. Wedding bells, if such a thing existed in ancient Japan, rang for Mochizuki as she wed Moritoki, marking her own trail on the Japanese historical map. Stepping into the powerful Takeda clan was no small deal and granted major bragging rights. The family was Mochizuki's first training ground, the quintessential launch pad that would catapult her to her fierce diva status. Being wife to the nephew of the uber-influential clan leader Takeda Shingen came with its own set of potential dangers and alarms. Takeda Shingen had clout and commanded respect. He also came with a bounty on his head. Conflict swirled around the clan as enemy clans strategically slithered and snaked around to thwart its objective. Clawing its target Honshu in the Japanese mainland, the Takeda clan butted heads with rival factions, the Uesugi and Tokugawa clans. But something was brewing within the ranks of Takeda's men and henchmen. No, not sake, but a far headier mix of revolt and treachery. Determined to secure his own back, Takeda went back to the drawing board to regroup his own loyal band of spies and to cast off the snakes in the grass. Meanwhile, Death's Chalice presented widowhood to Mochizuki as her husband succumbed to the Fourth Battle of Kawanakajima against the Tokugawa clan in 1561. Torn apart by grief, Mochizuki Chiyomi, or Mochizuki Chiyojo as she is known, found herself under the care and benevolence of Moritoki's uncle, Takeda. It was here that the first buds of her powerful legacy as the creator of formidable female mercenaries started to rear their fiery head. She requested Takeda to give her the go-ahead to set up camp. The chessboard of the power-hungry had its pawns and bishops scattered all around to manipulate, maneuver, and pull strings. In order to checkmate the enemy and permeate into rival warlords' inner sanctum as one of their own, Chiyome set off feverishly to work. Throughout the course of her unusual life, Chiyome's loyalty to Takeda remained unwavering. It was through the elaborate network of her spies that she fed vital information to the clan leader that kept the Takeda clan at the top of the samurai food chain. The blood of her ninja ancestors pulsated through her veins as Chiyomi set about the task of enlisting women for her hush-hush network of spies. These closet mercenaries carried on covert operations in the dark undercurrents beneath the turbulent and war-torn surface. The Shinshu region and its village of Nezu kicked off Chiyomi's hunt for the first ever female batch of kunoichi. The fresh recruits who were taught the nuances and the techniques of spying and espionage were women who were battered and bruised due to the Sengoku civil strife. Orphans and prostitutes were at the top of the list. Now that these women had been plucked from their rotting swamp of their social deprivation, they finally stumbled upon their sole purpose. This was not your ordinary run-of-the-mill charm school. Through rigorous training, these former victims transformed into assassins and mercenaries who thwarted suspicion and evaded notice. The suffocating weight of patriarchy was a back-breaking burden that crushed the very existence of Japanese women. This was something extraordinary because it gave expression to the warrior spirit that is the universe's innate gift to every woman. They were key players in the prevalent culture of war, wreaking havoc on enemy operations without raising as much as a single eyebrow. Distress tolerance in the form of holding their own against torture and gathering intel were some of their key training points. The trainee spies were immersed in a one-of-a-kind culture where they were taught to navigate life as Shinto priestesses, geishas, and even mercenaries, taking on any persona with ease. Traveling as the Miko or priestesses eased the path for many of these informants and opened doors that were previously heavily guarded and padlocked. As geishas and actresses, the opulent world of the Japanese nobility and royal courts granted them easy access. Inside information that reverberated within the walls of these elevated dwellings were theirs for the taking. Inebriated noblemen in all their boorish states of intoxication were perhaps the easiest to cajole and coax into giving up their concealed skeletons. Secrets were split and conspiracies traveled through the land. The Grim Reaper got wind of the whispered coded messages and descended to snatch the souls of the victims of assassins. Between the years of 1561 and 1573, the kunoichi had a big network of these female espionage agents that spanned around 200 or 300, all engaged in the service of the Takeda clan. Villagers who were blissfully unaware of Chiyomi's enterprise saw her in the avatar of a benevolent savior who was helping victimized women cut the cords with their painful past. She was providing a second chance to these determined women, prepping them to begin life on a brand new footing. Perhaps the locals saw Chiyome as the equivalent of a modern-day Florence Nightingale or Mother Teresa tending to the downtrodden and needy. She was the do-gooder noblewoman on the path of charity who would handpick lost souls from the ruins of towns and villages. She would offer them solace and comfort along with shelter to shield them from the harsh winds of poverty and abandonment. The girls were not only trained in the tactics of espionage, but were also given a formal education at her school. Interestingly, her ninja academies operated under the guise of schools that offered religious education to marginalized girls. Once the girls were deemed ready, they were introduced to Takeda Shinjin and were ready for battle. The year 1753 was eventful. Takeda Shinjin breathed his last. To this day, an aura of mystery hangs heavily around his final moments. Perhaps it was an arrow from a mercenary that took him down while at camp. Maybe he was ailing and sick with a disease like cancer that ate him up. Japan's ceaseless war had unleashed unimaginable terror on its hapless women. It had left them crippled on all fronts. It was during this dark hour that Chiyome lit the path for these wounded warriors like a candle in the wind that snuffed out as quietly as it had arrived on the scene. It seemed as if Takeda's demise had made Chiyome and her spies vaporize into thin air like wisps of smoke. Not a trace was left as they completely disappeared from history books and the historical map to be never seen or heard from again.